2018-61, Teresa Gesso. Anyway, they've asked for an adjournment, and we'll give an adjournment to the January 10th meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Ms. Worthington,
Aye.
Mr. Barnes.
Aye.
Mr. Seabrook.
Aye.
And I vote aye. All right, we have decision determination on appeal number 2018-57. The variance sought will not produce an impact on the adjacent properties or the neighborhood, as the new parcel created is similar in size to that of the neighboring properties. The requested variance is not substantial because the surrounding neighborhood was developed with lots and homes that are similar in size to the ones proposed to be created here. Accordingly, any development of these parcels with single-family residents will create a uniform appearance in the neighborhood. The benefit sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other alternative means, because the applicant is seeking to develop the parcels in a way that does not change the essential character of the community. Rather, the proposed development will create a uniform appearance in the neighborhood. The requested variance does not have an adverse impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood, as the surrounding neighborhood is developed with similar sized lots to the ones proposed here. Although the neighbors express concerns about the flooding in the area, any drainage issues can be addressed by the planning board, and the applicant shall be required to maintain water runoff on his own property. The alleged difficulty with the property owner is experiencing was self-created to the extent that the parcel was purchased after it was upzoned to 2-acre minimum parcels. However, that fact does not prohibit this board from granting the relief sought. Moreover, because the neighborhood in question was subdivided long before the 2004 upzoning, this property and surrounding properties that have been developed with residents in the neighborhood are smaller, that require minimum lot size of 80,000 square feet. Said another way, following the upzoning to 2-acre zoning, all lots in this area that were smaller than that were rendered pre-existing non-conforming as to lot size. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Barnes.
Aye.
Ms. Worthington.
Aye.
Mr. Seabrook.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Okay, Clarissa.
You want to start with the last appeal? Okay, we're gonna start with appeal number 2018-064, St. John the Baptist Church, 1488 North Country Road, Wading River, tax map number 600, 5428 and 54111, RB 80 zoning. For variances and or relief from chapter 301, section 249, where a second freestanding sign is proposed, the maximum permitted is 1 on the church property. Section 249C4, where side yard setbacks are 2 and 8 feet, and minimum required is 25 feet on the church property. And section 249C4, where front yard setback is 3 feet, and minimum required is 15 feet for the parking lot.
Counsel, you have the floor.
Yes, this is Sean Walter, 1938 Wading River Manor Road, Wading River, for St. John the Baptist. This is I think it's a relatively straightforward application. Most of these signs, 2 of these signs predate the zoning code. One of them, I was discussing with a parishioner this morning in church. The sign in the parking lot directly across the street from the church has probably been up 46 years. And the sign that is the interior sign as you come in the entrance closest to the parish hall has probably been up since 1975. That said, if the board wanted testimony to that effect, we could bring testimony in, but I think it's the one sign closest to the parish hall is more of a directional sign. I understand that it's close to the road, but it is more of, to my way of thinking, it's more of a Tanger interior kiosk sign to show you where to go while you are in the grounds of the church. So I understand that it's close, and I understand that the application is in for the setback of that sign, but I'd like you to take into consideration that it is more of a directional sign as to whether you're going to the parish hall, the preschool, the main church, the parking lot, then that more of a street sign. And so there's not too much more I can say about this. If you'd like, Father Frank is here, he could give you additional testimony. I think it's a pretty straightforward application, and if the board was inclined, we could bring in other testimony to show that two of the signs are pre-existing non-conforming. And that actually concludes this portion of my testimony.
As my friend said when he was betting with Notre Dame, he said, never bet against Holy Mother the Church, so I think I don't think we have a problem here.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else to be heard on this matter? Okay, what's up?
Okay, I move that the appeal of St. John the Baptist Church, 1488 North Country Road, Wading River, Suffolk County Tax Map 5428, 54111, which is located in the RBA zoning for variances and or relief from chapter 301, 249, where a second freestanding sign is proposed and the maximum permitted is 1. Section 249C4, where the side yard setbacks are 2 and 8 feet, and minimum required is 25 feet. And section 249C4, where the front yard setback is 3 feet, and the minimum required is 15 feet. Be approved in accordance with the application and amendments thereto, if any, filed with the building inspector.
Second.
All right, Mr. Barnes.
Aye.
Ms. Worthington.
Aye.
Mr. Seabrook.
Aye.
And I vote aye.
Thank you, and thank you for moving us up, sir. Have a
You're quite
wonderful
welcome.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
You too.
Christmas.
Clarissa, you're up.
Appeal number 2018-056, Kathleen and Roger Gilbert, 28 Gully Road, Wading River. Tax map number 654-116, RB 80 zoning, for variances and or relief from chapter 301, section 29A1A, where deck extension into the front yard beyond the front building line is not permitted. Section 29A1B, where deck extension setback is 12.8 feet, minimum required is 20 feet, and where shed and side yard is 14.9 feet from property line and 6 feet from dwelling, and the minimum required is 20 feet and 10 feet respectively.
And if you kindly raise your hand, young lady, you swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, to help you God.
I do.
Please state your name and your address.
Amy DeVito, Woodhull Expediting, with offices at 332 Woodhull Avenue, Port Jefferson Station, New York, 11776.
You have the floor.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My client has owned the property for more than 25 years. In the mid-90s, they altered their deck to extend across the front of their house. Shortly thereafter, they erected the shed for storage, specifically in the side yard because they're in a through lot. They were trying to shield it from both front yards as much as possible. And because this is a through lot, they spend much of their time outside on the deck area because that area affords them the most privacy. My client is preparing to obtain permits for these items as well as a rear extension. I have some photos to submit to the board to show similar characteristics in the neighborhood as well as the 4 sides of the home for you to see, which I'll bring up in a moment. In closing, it's our position that the variances sought are not substantial as they will not create a negative impact on the environment and they will not change the characteristic of the neighborhood and in fact enhance it because the porch does look so aesthetically pleasing now. And the relaxation, in our opinion, requested is relatively minor. We are hopeful that the board will deliberate favorably so that we may proceed to finalizing the legalization of these structures. I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have, and I'm going to bring up photos if that's okay.
Any board members have any questions? I mean, we were all there.
You mentioned in the deck extension into the front yard, but it's not indicated that in the survey. it's showing it's even with the front yard.
That's actually the line delineating the setback from the actual house to the side yard. I think you're seeing the bold line that cuts through. May I approach the podium?
Sure.
I think what you're seeing is, this line, this is just the setback line.
Right.
This is the actual line where the deck goes.
Oh, so that's the soffit line right there, that
Correct,
dashed
that,
line?
right, that's the roof over, and then here's the actual line where the
Okay.
deck comes up.
Got it.
Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Alright, anybody have any problem with this?
No.
Or is he,
No, do you see this?
it's just these neighbors?
Just the neighbor's house.
No, I really didn't have it.
Yeah, okay. Anyone else to be heard on this matter? All right, who's got it?
This is this one, right? This is the one.
Gully?
Just wanna make
Yeah.
sure.
28 Gully.
Okay. I move that the appeal of Kathleen and Roger Gilbert, 28 Gully Road, Wading River, for variances and relief from chapter 301, section 29, A1A, the deck extension into the front yard beyond the front building line is not permitted. Section 29A1B, where deck extension setback is 12.8 feet and the minimum required is 20 feet, and where the shed in the side yard is 14.9 feet from the extension, from the property line and 6 feet from the dwelling, and the minimum required is 20 feet and 10 feet respectively. Be approved in accordance with the application and sketches with amendments thereto, if any, as filed with the building inspector.
Second.
All right, Mr. Barnes,
Aye.
Mrs. Worthington,
Aye.
Mr. Seabrook,
Aye?
and I vote aye, so your appeal's been granted, and you know the process from now on then.
Thank you and good night.
Thank you very much.
Appeal number 2018-058, Joseph LaRusso, 2097 and 2107 North Wading River Road, Wading River, tax map number 654-2, 3, and 4, RB 80 zoning, for variances and/or relief from chapter 301, section 31, the proposed subdivision on merger where proposed lot areas are 20,000 and 25,188 square feet, and minimum required is 80,000 square feet, and where proposed lot widths are 100 and 125, and minimum required is 175 feet. For existing dwelling on 5424, section 31, where proposed side yard setback is 21.9 feet and minimum required is 30 feet. For the proposed dwelling on 5423, section 30, where proposed first floor living area is 1,060.6 square feet and minimum required is 1,500 square feet. Section 31, where proposed side yard setback is 28 feet and minimum required is 30 feet, and proposed combined side yard is 56 feet and minimum required is 65 feet.
If you kindly raise your right hand, do you swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? Please state your name and your address.
Tracy Shaleski, GW Consulting, P.O. Box 674, Coram, New York, 11727. For the owner, Joseph LaRusso.
Off you go.
Okay, this is a subdivision done by deed in 1950. I've already been in front of the planning board. Planning is amenable to this subdivision being legalized with the town pending this board's decision. We're seeking moderate setback variances for existing and proposed structures. The existing dwelling is asking for 8 feet of relief in the side yard. The proposed dwelling is asking for a first floor area of 1,060 feet, where 1,500 is required. So again, we're just asking for something very modest for the lot size. A 28-foot side yard setback where 30 is required, and total side yard of 56 where 65 is required. Both lots do need frontage, however, this lot size is not uncommon for the area, and I have photos from Suffolk County GIS. So I went through and highlighted some of the ones that are close in size to the lot size that we're asking to legalize. I know it's outside of the 200 or 500 foot radius, but I feel like it is, you know, the character of the neighborhood to have these smaller lots. It's more of a beachy community, even though when you get back, it's a little bit more wooded. And, oh, the other thing, I have more photos. The property is also significantly up gradient from the surrounding properties. So it won't cause a significant impact to the surrounding neighborhood, the surrounding houses. And, what else did I have photos of? That's kind of all I have to say about that, if you have any questions.
Okay.
The impervious, coverage, is that currently shown on the existing survey that you gave us now?
No, it's not shown. However, we can have it added to the survey if that's something that you wanted to see. Septic tank. Oh, no, it does have it on there. Impervious surfaces, 15%.
Quick look at the deed and the covenants and the title. I'm just a little concerned as to really what happened. Can I ask you a question? On the, you have lots 3 and 4 in the Suffolk County tax map numbers.
Yes.
You're saying that in 1950, these were 2 separate lots?
They subdivided this property.
Back in 1950?
In 1950 by
And
deed.
nobody really cared back then, because we didn't have a
No.
zoning. We didn't even have zoning.
Yeah,
So they did it by deed.
yes.
And at what point did they continue or conveyed out the properties when the zoning was in place and created a merger?
It was never merged. At this point, it still has 2 separate tax lots. It's only
Okay.
because they ended up under the same name.
And when did that happen?
Oh. I'd have to flip through the single and separate. I'm not sure exactly what day that it happened, or what year that it happened. You wanna give me a minute to flip
Yes,
through it?
absolutely. I want the question answered, because I'm a little... They subdivided in 50, but inadvertently someone took 2 deeds as one?
No,
And
no,
described one deed?
no. What happened was they were under
Or
the
the
same
zoning
name.
merged it?
They never checkerboarded the names. So they've had 2 separate deeds, they've had 2 separate tax lot numbers, but because they were both held under the same name, they were merged by the town.
By zoning?
Yes.
Okay, so when that property was turned into a zoning issue, they had the opportunity, whoever it was, to unmerger the property by deed, but they probably weren't aware of it.
No, no, they were not aware of
So
it.
the Hart, is it the Harts that had that lot?
Yes,
So recently it was conveyed to JW Consulting or
no,
Or
it was
to
never
this-
conveyed to us, it's under
these
Joseph
people?
LaRusso, the LaRussos,
the Russos, and the
LaRusso.
Russos bought the both lots,
yes.
but they really bought it by one deed. Or did they take it by 2 deeds?
This, I'm very sketchy on this, they went back and forth with the single and separate a few times, the law
Yeah,
department.
I'm trying to figure out where did it become merged or unmerged? Yeah, it's in that packet. Well, it's the planning aids report, but there's additional documents in there. You know, they're saying they were just covenants in 1950, but it looked like a deed conveyance to me, and then covenants.
It looks like they were kept in the same name all along. It was subdivided by deed,
In the 50s,
yes, in 1950.
Okay, so-
1950, it was subdivided by deed, however, I don't know, I couldn't tell you. I don't think they ever knew that they couldn't have it in the same name.
so the people that bought it wanna build another house on it, obviously, to make it more affordable or for an investment, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, well, they're living on tax lot, 4, they're living right next door to the place.
Right, I understand.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's their intention, they wanna build a second tiny home. I'm not sure if it's for a family member or, you know, a child, so that they could stay close to home rather than moving away. I'm not sure that far.
Well, maybe we'd
into
have to ask them.
it. Yes,
They're not here?
no,
None of them?
none of them.
In 16. So it was inadvertently merged in 16,
Okay,
but prior to that conveyance, was it merged? I know they took title in 16, but there were some estate issues. Anyway, I read in the.
there was a flub with the Schedule A. There was a 10-foot misunderstanding on one of the Schedule As, so that took a little bit to work out.
And I
where
think
that went.
these surveys are done incorrectly, by the way, but that's another story.
I haven't heard that.
That's for somebody else to figure out.
That's above my pay grade.
Well, the other thing in the planning aids report, they said that the town attorney, and not particularly this one, she's our attorney, but the town attorney needs to review the documents of the title search. So they recommended that the zoning board do not approve it
Okay.
until that is done.
Okay. I was unaware that there were still any title issues. I thought that was cleared up before I was even allowed to make application to you guys. So this is the first that I'm hearing that.
I wouldn't assume. Not here. So I think what I'd like to see is, maybe find out, have a clearer answer for us as to how it became merged and how it became unmerged. Or obviously it has never been unmerged.
No.
So
Well, it was-
essentially,
The way
I
that-
just wanna know why they sent out two tax bills if it was never merged.
Again, as far as the planning board was concerned, this subdivision exists. It has two separate tax map numbers, it's two separate lots.
That doesn't mean anything
Yeah.
when you have two tax lots.
Well,
The
as far as
deeds are the
planning,
controlling, it's operational law.
I agree with you, I understand how it
Okay.
works.
You know, I just
What-
don't wanna see an application, bounce through the system and nobody's paying attention.
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
Someone is not paying attention here. Just thought I'd mention it.
Like I said, planning feels like this is, just a matter of paperwork. They feel like it's a subdivision that was done in 1950 and they were willing to proceed pending your decision.
Okay.
And like I said, it's the flub with the Schedule As, I thought that was cleared up before I could even come in front of you guys. So,
Yeah.
I will get
We
whatever
would need a
information you
follow-up from either the town attorney or the planning aide who wrote this report and put that in there, that needed to be reviewed by the town attorney.
Okay.
Also,
Huh?
It's not single and separate, that's what they're single and separate services, it's not. So,
I need to know how it got to get two tax bills when it was owned in 1950 as one lot.
No, in 1950,
There
they
there was
created two
separate lots.
separate lots in
And then
1950,
somehow-
and then it went on.
they went in,
Well, there was some deaths and conveyances and
Yeah,
Well,
maybe incidentally it was merged by
in
mistake, I don't know.
2016, they were sold as
One. Or two separate,
two tax lots and one deed.
one deed, that merged it right there.
And then prior to that,
So I wonder if their title company picked that up when they bought it.
there was that mistake, or that 10-foot mistake on one of the Schedule As, and that's kind of like where everybody's focus went. And then the conversation continued between the town attorney and the title company, so I
Okay.
kinda got like iced out and just stood there and looked pretty.
All right, I just thought we need some clarification, that's all.
I agree.
In addition to that,
Okay.
the proposed driveway, is that pervious or impervious?
They're amenable to either one. I mean, if
Well,
you guys wanted
we need
like
to
a
see
blue
like
stone-
an impervious surface calculation.
There is one on there, they're saying the impervious surface is, 3,600 square feet, which equals 15% of the lot.
How much?
15% of the lot. But that I think also includes structures when you're talking impervious surfaces, correct?
That includes the driveway?
It would include the driveway, but also the houses, so the surveyor really didn't make that clear.
yeah, well,
But they would be open if you guys wanted something like a blue stone or a rock or something, they're not hell-bent on having, blacktop or concrete, if that was like a suggestion for.
Why don't you get an answer for us as to what they're looking for, and does
Okay.
the driveway include the 15%?
Cause we're currently not showing that on the appeal, the impervious surface.
What was that, I'm sorry?
Well, it says proposed driveway, I don't know
Yeah.
what they intend to put down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
It could be mud.
yeah, true, although I don't suggest
I don't
that
think that
on
would
that
be,
hill.
cause that's a hill.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
All right, anyone else to be heard on this matter? Okay, let's have an adjournment to, January 10th. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Barnes?
Aye.
Mr. Seabrook?
Aye.
Ms. Worthington? And I vote aye. See you folks on the 10th.
No wonder they didn't merge them, but they didn't merge the tax map. Okay. Alright,
All right, Cliff.
thank you.
Appeal number 2018-059, Polska Duma LLC, 314 Hamilton Avenue, Riverhead, tax map number 600-126-1, 3.6, RA 40 zoning, for variances and/or relief from chapter 301, section 222E, where the proposed addition increases gross floor area within required side and rear yard setbacks, representing an increase in degree of nonconformity of a pre-existing nonconforming dwelling which is not permitted.
If you kindly raise your right hand, do you swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
State your name and your address.
Good evening. My name is Jim Frankie. I'm at 11500 Old Sound Avenue in Mattituck.
Have the floor.
Thank you. I've never done this before, but we propose to alter a house at 314 Hamilton Avenue by demolishing a back kitchen structure as it exists now, with that being one story with a small unusable attic over it, to rebuild that room on the same foundation, and then above that, a new second floor room and new roof, not increasing the footprint of the existing building as it is now.
Do you have plans?
I have a copy of the plan, yes.
May we see it?
Of course.
Thank you.
So, what's your plans for the second floor, sir? while we're waiting to see it?
Sure, they're, just moving some of the bedroom walls. That the house was constructed quite some time ago, and the bedrooms don't have closets and so forth. There's only one bathroom in the house now. It's going to.
How many bedrooms existing?
Existing now is, 3 small bedrooms,
And,
second floor.
and what are you proposing?
And there will be, a larger bedroom and then a total of 4. There'll be a small one downstairs as well.
So you're going from 3 to 4?
Correct.
Yeah, Frank, let's take a look at the first floor. And then going up into the second. So, is there any plans to make this a two-family?
No plan to make this a 2-family at all, no.
No, it's just gonna rent it,
Gonna rent it as 1-family house, correct.
okay? Has he had this property long?
No, about a year, a little less than that.
Oh, okay. Certainly sounds like it would be an improvement to what's there.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, the house has been, allowed to deteriorate. He's going to, do a full renovation on it. He'd like to have the shutters back that were on it at one time, but, he
The
intends
Polish
to-
ones?
Yes,
Okay. I just don't wanna find out that becomes a two-family.
I beg your pardon?
I don't wanna find out that becomes a two-family down the road.
No, he has no intention of that being 2-family.
Okay, cause I will find out.
You need this back?
I do not need it back, if you'd like to keep it.
We'll put it with the paperwork.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Well, I saw it, I don't have a problem with it, but if we approve it, I wanna put a condition that it stays as a single family.
You got the reading for this? Anyone else to be heard on this matter?
Okay, I move that appeal of Palishka Duma LLC at 314 Hamilton Avenue, Riverhead, tax map number 600-126-1, 3.6, RA 40 zoning. For variances to and relief from chapter 301, section 222E, where the proposed addition increases gross floor area within required side and rear yard setbacks, representing an increase to degree of nonconformity of pre-existing non-conforming dwelling in which it is not permitted. Be approved with the following condition, that it remains a single-family dwelling, in accordance with the application and sketches with the amendments thereto, if any, as filed with the building inspector.
Second.
Sorry.
All right. Mr. Barnes?
Aye.
Mrs. Worthington?
Aye.
Mr. Seabrook?
Aye?
And I vote aye. So the appeal has been granted, and building department, in about 2 weeks, they should have all your paperwork ready for you. Thank you kindly.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good holiday.
Thank you, you too.
Appeal number 2018-060, Elizabeth Milady, 17 Little Bay Road, Wading River, tax map number 600-3226, RB 80 zoning, for variances and or relief from chapter 301, section 29A1B, where proposed pool is 6 feet from the rear property line and minimum required is 20 feet, where proposed pool is 17 feet from side street line and minimum required is 50 feet, and where shed constructed 18.4 feet from side street line and minimum required is 50 feet.
And if you kindly raise your right hand, do you swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, both of you state your names, please.
Elizabeth Milady,
And Brian Hatto?
and we live at 17 Little Bay Road, Wading River.
Okay. What do you want to do there?
we'd like to put a pool in. As you see, you have the paperwork. Our property is a little bit difficult to work with. The back, which is directly back of the house, is very small. The front, which is technically a side, I mean, I think we have 3 sides. 3 front yards, and, we worked really hard with some pool companies, trying to figure out the best location, and it seems like where we plotted it seems to be the best. That's really, we just don't have a lot of places to work with that would meet what we need to meet to be.
Not many of the properties down here. do.
Yeah, it's really, the lines are very strange.
How do your neighbors feel about it?
We've spoken to the neighbor who's directly next to us, who would be the one who really has to deal with having a pool almost in her front yard. And she's okay with it because there's right now a line of trees, and we would be putting up a fence, and we would be making sure, you know, we wanna obviously keep it private too, because we have small kids, we don't want anyone looking into the pool either, which is difficult also with all of the side roads. But we haven't heard anything negative from anybody in the neighborhood at all, so,
Okay,
That's good.
yeah,
That's a nice thing.
yeah.
let's just see. Anybody
Strange,
from the
right?
neighborhood here?
Nobody that I see, I
Uh-oh,
mean,
it's
Father
looking like
Frank,
Lear
but
sandwich.
he,
All right, young lady, what do you think? Do you want a pool? Oh, all right.
That's why they brought him here.
I was gonna say we had a babysitter
We know
cancellation
that.
for the
Yeah,
record.
yeah. You can pay for the pool tonight.
Yeah.
All right.
Alright, I move that the appeal of Elizabeth Milady at 17 Little Bay Road, Wading River, tax map number 630-2-26, RB 80 zoning for variances and relief from chapter 301, section 29A, 1B, where proposed pool is 6 feet from the rear property line and the minimum required is 20 feet, where the proposed pool is 17 feet from the side street line and the minimum required is 50 feet, and where the shed constructed 18.4 feet from the side street line and the minimum required is 50 feet, be granted in accordance with the applications and the sketches with the amendments thereto, if any, is filed with the building inspector.
Second.
Mr. Seabrook?
Aye.
Mr. Barnes?
Aye.
Ms. Worthington?
Aye.
And I vote aye. So, young lady, you will have a swimming pool this summer. All right? All right. You're welcome. Have a great Christmas.
Bye now.
All right, who else wants to rent the kids?
Ready? I have to apologize in advance for this name. Appeal number 2018-062, Panayotis Papa Nicolau, 96 18th Street, Wading River, tax map number 653-125, RB 80 zoning, for variances and/or relief from chapter 301, section 31, where shed is constructed 0.8 feet from the property line, and the minimum required is 20 feet, where impervious coverage exceeds 17% of the lot and maximum permitted is 15%, where proposed side yard setbacks are 13.33 and 10.67 feet, and minimum required is 30 feet, where proposed combined side yard is 24 feet, and minimum required is 65 feet, where proposed rear yard setback is 40 feet, and minimum required is 75 feet.
If you kindly raise your right hand, you swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
State your name.
My name is Dimitris Dimitriou. I live on 5 Geranium Avenue, Flora Park. I'm an architect, and I'm here representing my client, Mr. Papanikolaou.
Okay. You have the floor.
And basically, the owner is currently owned the property for almost 2 decades, 18 years to be exact. And the house is pretty much a small studio, 1 room, bathroom, and a kitchenette open to the room. They like to be able to have a little privacy, so they have asked me to design 2 bedrooms so they can be able to use the house more comfortably. And little to my knowledge, I couldn't figure out why I couldn't do it, because the zoning for the size of the lot sounded odd to me, and I called the building department because I'm not local. And Mr. Hammond guided me through the process. Took me 3 hours to get here, but I'm here. And it's all about having a little extra space and privacy within the home. Any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
We were down there looking at it. I don't have any problems myself. We'll just see what the rest of the
No
board
problems,
says.
no problems.
Thank you.
Anyone else to be heard on this matter? Step up. Let's not waste a trip. And if you kindly raise your right hand, do you swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. My name is Alina Yakimiuk Malik. I am his, Mr. Papanikolo neighbor on the left. And he is a great neighbor. They spent all summer at their house, but because they can stay outside as well. They cannot stay during the winter time because the house is too small. So I think it would be great idea for them to stay there so I can have great neighbor throughout the whole year.
Well, we're all in for great neighbors, so
That's right,
thank you for
that's
coming,
right.
coming down. All right. Let's have a reading. Who's good?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the appeal number 18-062, where a shed is constructed 0.8 feet from property line, the minimum required is 20 feet, where impervious coverage exceeds 17% of the lot, and the maximum required is 15%, where proposed side yard setbacks are 13.33 and 10.67 feet, and minimum required is 30 feet, where proposed combined side yard is 24 feet, and minimum required is 65 feet, where proposed rear yard setback is 40 feet, and minimum required is 75 feet, be granted in accordance with the applications and sketches with amendments thereto, if any, as filed with the building inspector.
Second.
All right, Mr. Barnes.
Aye.
Ms. Worthington.
Aye.
Mr. Seabrook.
Aye.
Everyone. So enjoy your neighbors. About 2 weeks from now, building department should have all your paperwork ready, right? Same to you. What was that?
I said, I wish the Greek said down the street and it was Merry Christmas.
Ah. Jingle bells.
And that would be,
Oh,
and that would be tikka, right?
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Must have took that ferry over from Mari, huh, a few times?
I was married to a Greek woman for a while, so I know a lot.
I bet you did, especially from the outlaws.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
No. Appeal number 2018-063, Paul Wisnowski, 301 Scott Avenue, Calverton, tax map number 600-135.20-16, PIP zoning, for variances and or relief from chapter 301, section 186B6, where control building is 31.91 feet from rear property line and required is 50 feet, where rear addition to main building is 43.1 feet from rear property line and required is 50 feet. Section 186B8, where proposed impervious surface is 62% of the lot area, and maximum permitted is 57%. Section 186B10, where 62.9% of the required parking is located within the front yard, and maximum permitted is 25%. Where parking within the front yard is 2.5 feet from the property line, and minimum required is 25 feet. Section 259D1, where exterior lighting is mounted at 25 feet on the building and 35 feet at the poles, and maximum permitted is 16 feet. And section 259D2, where proposed exterior lighting will trespass onto adjoining property which is not permitted.
Since I know the architect, I guess you're the attorney.
Yes, that's why.
Please state your name and your address.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is John Zolo. I'm Attorney on behalf of Eastern Wholesale Fence. My office is located 12 Manor Road, Smithtown, New York, 11787. And yes, I'm here on behalf of Eastern Wholesale Fence. Paul Wisnowski is the Director of Manufacturing for Eastern Wholesale Fence. I met Peter Williams, who's seated here today. I met him sometime in 2004, and I worked for the law firm of Myers, Weiss, and Klein. And together, I represented him towards his purchase. We worked in the town of Riverhead and getting into EPCAL through the industrial bonds. We did that. It was 2004. So I'm just going to give you a little overview of this application. I know this property has been, since 2004, we've been back to the board. The supervisors of the town, the plan directors, whether it's Rick Hanley, and the various town attorneys over the last several years. So Eastern Wholesale Fence has its main office in Medford, New York. Eastern is comprised of 10 different buildings between Medford and the subject property of 301 Scott Avenue in Calverton. Eastern manufactures and distributes fence products to fence contractors, fence fabricators, fence distributors, landscapers, municipalities, box stores. Currently, they ship their products throughout the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, and Midwest and Southeast United States. They also ship to Puerto Rico and Israel. Eastern manufactures over 70% of everything it sells right here on Long Island. Eastern employs between 340 to 420 people per year. This fluctuates throughout the year at different times of the season and spends over $20 million a year in payroll and related employment costs. Eastern was sold to a private equity company in 2017. Peter Williams remained as the, having interest in the company, and also as the chief executive officer. That was 2017, with an increased focus on expanding their business and growing locally and throughout the country. The company has grown reasonably well over the last 5 years, from $62.5 million to $94.6 million in sales in 2018. The fiscal year ends in October, and they're hoping to hit a goal for 2019 of $102.3 million. Eastern's plant in Calverton, they operated 24 hours, 7 days a week. They're open approximately 350 days a year. They have multiple shifts, and they stagger them to avoid congestion around the plant. Eastern has one shift which employs 22 people. I just want to give you a background of the company, because we know where the building is, we know the park. They employ 22 people and run shifts 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. This is 7 days a week. They have another part of the plant that operates 5 days a week, up to 2 8-hour shifts. On those shifts, Eastern employs an average of 44 people per shift. The shifts run 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. and 4 p.m. to midnight. The second shift operates seasonally, March through September. The most people they have in the building at any one time is approximately 70 people. Eastern just added more capacity to the Calverton facility with the investment of their 6th extrusion line for a total investment of $2.1 million in 2018. They also contracted to add a cogeneration plant at the facility whereby they will generate their own power at the plant, reducing the pull and drain on the public utility grid. Eastern's current annual electric cost is approximately $1.2 million a year. The cogeneration plant should have Eastern approximately save them about $250,000 per year electric costs. This investment will go back into the plant. Eastern just issued a purchase order to add blending capabilities to the process. The investment will cost them approximately $3.1 million in 2019. This will give the company the ability to mix their PVC compound versus what they currently do, buying pre-mixed PVC compound. Once again, this will realize a cost savings to Eastern and also increase their ability to grow their business here in Riverhead. The growth and investment into the process was made possible by the grants that the town received to reactivate the rail lines in EPCAL. Eastern Wholesale Fence worked with the town of Riverhead to expand their rail hub into the site. Between the town's investment and Eastern's subsequent investment of $800,000, the additional track and other expenditures were invested, and the track now comes to Eastern's property. The rail has been extended. The extension of the rail reduced the number of tractor trailers delivering product and traveling on the expressway out east to Calverton. Eastern is continuously investing money into the business and the town of Riverhead and its plant. The company has been looking to expand its production capacity through acquisition of buildings or a new plant in other parts of the country. Eastern, while maintaining this plant and faculty in Calverton, believes they can achieve lower costs and utilities in other locations while maintaining this as their hub here in Long Island. The plant in Calverton plays a key role in the expansion of Easton's business throughout the country and right here on Long Island. From the time Easton purchased the property in 2004 up through including the present, Easton's plan has been to improve the facility, maintain a good working relationship with the town of Riverhead, and grow its business here in New York and throughout the country. All through this plant and the efficiencies we have put into place, they're happy to continue the relationship here in Calverton. A brief history of the property. I just want to go through this with you because I think it's important. We've been involved with this for 13 more years, 14 years. The property 301 Scott Avenue is approximately 9.425 acres and is used for the manufacturing and storage of PVC fence products. The subject property is lot 31 of the Calverton Camelot subdivision in EPCAL. This is an urban renewal area. I do note, as the board is probably aware, there was an article in Newsday this Tuesday, December 11, entitled Riverhead Boost 2 Opportunity Zones. The article goes on to say that Riverhead's push is underway to spur more business and investment into its downtown area and the Enterprise Park at Calverton. As Supervisor Jen Smith stated, the sky is really the limit as to what can be developed in the opportunity zones. The property is in the planned industrial park. The property is purchased by the current owner in 2004. Town of Riverhead issued industrial revenue bonds to assist in this purchase. The goal to be accomplished by the purchase was to move fabrication into the building and the site. That goal has been accomplished. Peter has expanded the business dramatically over the last several years. Excuse me. The principals of Easton made it clear from the very beginning that what they wanted to do and needed to accomplish at the site, and that's why they moved to Riverhead. They saw the great opportunity for growth, expansion, and cooperation with the town of Riverhead. Easton Wholesale Fence through Peter Williams Jr. has worked over the years hand in hand with the town of Riverhead to move the project forward and accomplish the goal of expanding the existing business and helping to grow the industrial park. In 2005, a site plan was submitted to show planned improvements to the property, including electrical, silos, fences, and outside storage. As the business developed, Easton Wholesale Fence had the opportunity to expand this business and bring a rail spur to the property in 2013. In 2013, a meeting was held with town representatives to discuss the property and legalizing the control house, which is one of the variances that is being sought tonight for the rail spur, as well as installation of the rail spur itself. It's important to note that we are seeking today several variances for section 301, section 186, and 301-259. The improvements and items for which we seek variances are consequences of both the building itself from the time it was purchased, as well as modifications and transformations that were necessitated to ensure the continuing growth and expansion of the business. All of these changes were done with the knowledge and in many cases the cooperation and understanding of the town of Riverhead. This is not a case of my client in any way snubbing or ignoring the zoning requirements of the town. It's a complicated property with many issues, as you all know, that they have been dealing with over this last 14 years. As this board and the town is aware, zoning the park is somewhat complicated. The buildings all existed for many years as part of the Grumman facility. The building that Peter's in now was Grumman's parts building to the west, right behind Easton's property. It's an old steam plant. Until the recent past, that plant had provided heat to many of the buildings on the property. Excuse me. I'm reading this to you because it's a lot for me to get through to you. I just want you to have a sense of the application. The variances that we're seeking are for the legalization of a 9x12 roof overstructure, the control building that was necessitated by installation of the rail hub, which is 31, we need a variance 31.9 feet from the rear, and we need the grant for impervious surface from 62% of the lot, which maximum print is 57%. Seeking permission to allow 62.9% required parking lot in the front yard when the maximum is 25%. A variance for parking in the front yard, reducing the front yard setback from 25 feet to what is there, 2.5 feet. A variance is to allow the existing lights on the building themselves at 25 feet and on the poles at 35 feet, and allowing exterior lighting to trespass minimally onto adjoining property owners. The goal of the application is to, first of all, allow us to move forward with the site plan process. We can't move forward with the site plan process until this board hopefully rules favorably on these variances. Excuse me one second. Just gonna present you with pictures that were taken coming into the park. And they're labeled and identified as to what they are, what you're looking at. And I'm very well familiar with the park. One of the concerns I have is I don't want to take take anything for granted. I want to make sure you understand the nature of Peter's business, and Peter is here on behalf of Eastern Wholesale Fence to talk to you about anything in terms of what the extrusion process is, why he needs these, why the building's there for the control, and what their goal is with the cogeneration plant that they're gonna be bringing into the facility.
Sure.
So tonight, we're looking for variances for the height of the light poles for 35 feet, where the required minimum, the maximum required is allowed is 16 feet. We're looking for the setbacks with respect to the control building at the rear, which is 31.91 feet off of the property line, and a 9 by 12 wooden structure that's a shelter really for people working outside to keep them out of the weather. I highlighted on my site plan over here the subjects of the variance. Impervious surface, I'm gonna have our architect just talk to you about why we need the variance of the impervious surface issue. Years ago, speaking with the town attorney, there was the definition of how, the understanding of what impervious surface was and how it has been changed over the years. So currently, I think we need some clarification as to whether in fact what we have down on some portion of the property is considered impervious versus pervious. Excuse me. We're hoping to legalize the addition to the main structure as part of the site plan process and the roof over structure. We also are looking to, with respect to the ground cover, the existing ground cover characteristics within the site are hard pan, and also there's some RCA, and in the past, RCA was considered pervious surface, and there's questions as to how the town is interpreting that now, and I'll let Rob Stromsky talk about that. We're looking to obtain relief for required parking for the property. The town code requires 92 parking stalls in total. The maximum personnel shift that we have is 70 at any one time. We'd like to reduce the provided parking spaces to 50 spaces with 42 land bank. 34 of the spaces would be within the front yard, and only and the front yard would be set 2.5 feet off of the property line. As the code says, only 25% is allowed in the front yard, with a minimum setback of 25 feet. I talked to you about this height of the poles. Everything you have here, they're just looking at the light poles. If I show you the photos, as you go through the photos, you'll see they're in keeping with the character and nature of the surrounding properties and businesses. The lights on the building are 25 feet. The building is approximately 36 feet in height. The lights, again, I don't think are inconsistent with any of the surrounding buildings or properties in the area. The existing building is what Peter had purchased in 2004. He's made some changes as part of, on the outside in terms of, for the bringing in of the material and the rail. But what we're looking to do tonight is continue the site plan process, secure the variances for these items, and be able to continue moving forward. Peter and the company, Eastern, has a project, and they intend to bring a cogeneration plant in, which again, as I said previously, will allow them to generate their own electricity on the premises. And I know there's a secret review that has to continue, and we have to move forward with the planning board on the site plan. What we hope to do is move this process along so we can work and get the application filed and secure the necessary permits for the cogeneration plant. I will not belabor this. I believe that we meet the criteria of the balancing test for granting of the variances. There is, everything that here has been done. The site and the applications that we're making here before have all been known to the town. We've worked hand in hand with the town in moving forward and helping Peter and Eastern Wholesale Fence expand the business. Rob, would you like to just explain about the RCA and the impervious surfaces?
You swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
State your name and your address.
Robert Stromsky, Stromsky Architecture, PC. I'm currently working as a representative for Eastern Wholesale Fence. I reside at 44 Circle Drive in Jamesport. There's kind of been a lot of discussions as to the nature of what RCA is, whether it's pervious or impervious. A lot of times I've brought applications before this town, and other site plan applications, when you read the literal definition of gravel parking as required by the town, it talks for a stone blend base and then gravel, bluestone above that. A lot of times in details that we've submitted to this town and other townships, we've used a 6-inch RCA base and then put the bluestone above that, and that would be, you know, deemed acceptable by most municipalities and would be considered a pervious surface. There has been some discussions during some Tuesday meetings that I've had with the planning staff, whereas they now are kind of looking at RCA as after it gets compacted by driving cars over it, depending on the type of RCA you get. A lot of times when you get DOT specified RCA, there's a lot of powder because all the concrete is crushed and pulverized, so that becomes more of a powdery mix. Generally, most of the RCA that we get in this area, if you order it from State Material or the local supply yards, it's more of a larger aggregate with less dust, and in my professional opinion, it's more of a stone blend base than a true RCA DOT specified blend. So that's been kind of a discussion that we've had with planning staff as to, you know, is it really considered pervious or impervious? What you see here and what's causing the nature of the impervious is the use of an RCA. The RCA that is on this property, I believe, is more of the aggregate type of RCA with less of the powdery type of mixture. And a lot of the property, due to its original nature, has a lot of concrete around the building just from the nature of when it was used as the growing facility. There is the 75,000 square feet that we're leaving natural in this area. I believe after speaking, you know, with the client when we discussed this whole issue, there really hasn't been a drainage problem on your property, even with all the heavy rains that we've had in this area. So it's not that this RCA condition is providing a problem with stormwater management on the site. I believe there are drainage easements, and there was a problem in the fact that to the east of the property, as part of the drainage easement, there is pipe structures that were to the west of your property? Okay. To the west of the property, there's drainage pipes that during, I believe, town improvements, and maybe Peter can address that. Right. All of their drainage structures are connected to this pipe that then goes to the west, and there's a drainage sump, I believe, that pretty much everything drains into. During the course of some improvements with, what was it, the utility company or roadway that was put in?
The other property owner,
Somebody cut the pipe. And that was one of the only time that they had an issue was when they realized that pipe was cut and blocked. They've asked the town in numerous things to try to address it, being that it was a drainage easement for not only their property, but probably other parcels that feed into the drainage pipe system. But since their discussions and the amount of rains that we've had in November, I'm sure everybody knows that there was a lot of puddling and ponding. Their property really hadn't any issues with stormwater management. So, you know, we would ask that the board look at the application as it sits and, you know, deem that, you know, we're not asking for asphalt paving all over. We're just asking for the use of RCA as a blend, which I believe is not 100% impervious. There could be a discussion as to how permeable it is, but I do think it's better than a asphalt. The nature of their trucks and their heavy equipment that they use to move skids and material all around, a gravel parking surface really wouldn't be conducive. It would contain a lot of ruts, and I think it would be more of a hassle for them to operate their facility and be as efficient as they am. Just knowing that, you know, their business, the whole idea of why they can be competitive in this market is the way that they can move material very efficiently. And having that surface with the ability to move their heavy equipment, tractor trailers. If you've ever been there during the day, there is a lot of activity with material going where it needs to go. Cause if it sits on the site too long, they're not making money. So all of that material has to move on a regular basis. If you have any other questions regarding that or any other issues, I'd be happy to answer.
Mr. Stromsky, in regards to the lights,
There we go.
you have 35-foot poles.
Are they new lights or were they already there?
I would have to defer to the client. I don't know the history of the.
All right.
They installed it when they moved into the property, 2004.
Most likely to keep an eye on the stacked up fencing that they had. If you put the lights too low, you can't see your product.
But you know, just to put it out there, you know, in the most illuminated area of Riverhead, Route 58, we denied Costco for having 35-foot lights. We denied them and made sure that they stuck according to code, 16-foot lights. Why do you, you know, in Calverton, which is a very dark area compared to Route 58, why do you need 35-foot lights?
What we've proposed is if we reduce it from 35 feet, there's going to be more poles.
Well, that was the same argument that Costco had, and we denied that as a board.
Okay, I've also been in front of this board and I have obtained variances for Hampton Jitney in Calverton, and we were allowed to go above 16 feet, and that was because of motor coach uses and so forth. So I know that this board is not going to set precedent on this application granting a variance for heights greater than 16 feet. The 35 foot is basically what's an existing site lighting, what we put in for the site plan application. They deemed we would need a variance for it. We understand that there may be some discussion on that. Keep in mind that the building itself has existing lights and junction boxes that are on the building that are at 25 feet. And just the nature of the building in itself, a 25-foot height would be, you know, a minimum just because of what's on the building and, you know, the amount of material that they need to stack, that they need to have light distribution. Once we convert the fixtures to dark sky compliant LED fixtures, the throw of light is not going to be as forward.
Yeah, I mean, we heard that argument from Costco. I don't necessarily have a problem with a 5% difference in impervious surface. It's just the exterior lighting. You know, we did deny that as a board for Costco, which, you know, Route 58 is the most illuminated site in Riverhead. I don't think anybody would argue with me on that, you know. But as far as everything else goes, with me personally as an individual, I don't have a problem with. It's just the light poles. Yeah.
Sure, just raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Please state your name and your address.
Peter Williams Jr., I reside at 23 Steers Avenue in Northport, New York. I just wanna give a little color on the lights and why they're important. And, you know, I'm not sure why we picked 35 feet at the time when we put the poles up back, you know, 14 years ago. But we are a 24-hour operation, so we have people out there working. They're not just parking their car and walking into a store. They're outside working, and, you know, for OSHA regulations and everything else, they need to be able to see what they're doing for safety, because, you know, if they're not on the forklift, they're walking past the forklift that's moving. You know, so it has to be pretty well lit up and illuminated so they can see that. If these poles are only 16 feet high, they wouldn't barely reach the top of some of the stacks. The lights wouldn't do us any good. So if we're gonna look for a variance, if it's 25 feet, I don't know what the difference is, 25 feet or 35 feet to you. I don't know, and, you know, to reduce the size of, you know, to reduce the lights down is a cost to us of about $40,000. You know, to 16 feet, like I said, they wouldn't make much of a difference. You know, we could go to 25 feet, spend the $40,000, but I don't know if that's much of a difference to you guys, so. I just
Well,
wanted to
the
add that
dark
color to it.
skies is 16 feet. I mean, do you have a problem with adhering to the 16 feet?
Yeah, that's what I said. I think that's much too low for safety for the people that work there.
We're adjourning this anyways.
Yeah.
We'll take another advice. Okay, thank you.
If I might, one of the things, with respect to the lighting is, I think EPCAL, especially in enterprise zone over here, it's a completely different animal, I think, than the Costco you're talking about. And that's one reason why I presented the photos to you. First of all, I was thinking of height of 35 feet. How does it appear people driving up? I mean, the photos show it's not outlandish. Doesn't shock the conscience when you look at it. The poles are there because of the nature of the buildings there. They're dwarfed basically. I mean, think about one of the photos I'll show you is the steam plant and the stack that are much taller than that. I think that's how high is the building behind you, Peter? 80, 75 feet, 80 feet. So I think it's not a fair comparison for Costco versus here. I think what we're trying to accomplish is, as Peter said, safety on the site. They have a 24-hour-a-day business there. You have workers outside moving around, and maybe 35 feet, in your opinion, would be too high, but 16 would not serve the purpose that's required there. And also the building that was there and those lights that are on the building were pre-existing, that 25 feet. Those were all part of the building. So yeah, I think you have to do this whole, I'm not telling you, you already know this, I'm just reiterating it. You have to take a look at what you're dealing with in this park, and I think the photos, if you look at everything, kind of comes into place and it works. 35 feet again, and we spoke about this, maybe there's compromise that could be reached, but 16 would be much too low, and 25, look, I gave you a picture that shows the light in the building where that would be. That would probably be the least that they'd be able to have over there. They just have to increase the lighting around the facility. But so again, I think you have to be fair about the comparison versus Costco. It's a completely different operation, completely different type of business, completely different location. And I appreciate and respect the dark skies, but you also have to consider the nature of his business. So I thank you very much. One of the things, and I'm here with Peter, and I talked a lot and I read a lot because I wanted you to understand. I mean, I feel like I've grown up with Peter from 2004 to now, watching him develop a business that he took from it was dying, and he worked with his father and put it together and made this vibrant, thriving business here in Riverhead. He chose Riverhead because of the opportunities that are here. And this opportunity zone that you have now is, Peter, I think it should be the poster child, Eastern Wholesale Fence, for what can be accomplished here. So we're asking you to consider, look at this application favorably. I think Mr. Stromsky explained to you about the RCA, and again, over the years, I think that interpretation of what was pervious versus what wasn't pervious has been changed. We're looking for guidance here. Considering the nature of the operation, considering the whole park where this property is located, I don't think there's any effect on anybody in terms of the community, the surrounding properties, and if anything, what you're allowing here will help, I think, want people to come into the park to see what opportunities are available to them. So, in just summing up, we have the request for the variances for the rear yard property line for the control building, the roof over building. We have the request for the variance for the impervious surfaces, and requesting that we have the ability to park in the front there, 2.5 feet off the road, which, again, that's been there forever that way. So we're really trying to work with the town, legitimize what is there, and move forward. And I said this before, the cogeneration plant that's coming in is gonna be a wonderful thing. It's gonna take a lot of stress off the public grid, and Peter's investing a tremendous amount of time, money in that. And whatever we can do to move the secret process along, and I spoke to Ms. Thomas about this, I'm gonna contact planning and try to work with on the site plan and move it along, because time is money, as they say, and this is a big business with a lot of people, and we need to get this going forward. And we've been working, and I know I'm talking a lot, I'm droning on, but
Yes, you
I can't, I apologize, but I just want, I know,
No, you're not.
listen,
You don't mean it.
but my point is, we've been working with the town hand in hand for years on this. It's not just, we're not coming in and saying, forgive us, we have done everything, and the town has always been aware of what's going on. So, we need your help, we need your guidance, and we need the relief that we request here tonight. And thank you very much, and have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you, John.
Okay.
So they have an unlisted action, under seeker, so that requires coordinated review with the planning, with the town board site plan, because it's EPCAL, but the planning department's working on it, so your decision and their decision can't be segmented under secret. So I think we discussed adjourning the hearing, waiting for the planning department's conclusion of the secret process.
Okay.
What would
And
be
then-
your estimated time to have that accomplished?
I have to
We
speak
should
to-
at least adjourn it to that.
Yeah, I have to speak to Mr. Murphy. I
'Cause
keep
don't
it on
wanna
a
leave
short
stuff
leash,
on the
yeah, I
agenda
keep it,
anymore.
All right,
I
so
keep it
let's
on
make it January 10th, the
Yep.
next meeting.
perfect.
January 10th?
January 10th?
All
I'd
right.
like to see government move that fast.
All right.
I thank you so much for your patience.
Oh.
Appreciate your time.
listen, we have to get it all on the record, so thank you for having it condensed as best you could, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Especially with your throat.
Yes, please,
That's a
couple
mono.
cough drops. All right, let's hear a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the appeal number 18-063, Paul Westnuff, 301 Scott Avenue, be adjourned till January 10th.
Second.
Mr. Bonds?
Aye.
Ms. Worthington?
Aye.
Mr. Seabrook?
Aye.
And I vote aye. So the appeal, we'll wait for the next meeting.
Thank you very much. See
Hopefully
you
we'll have
next
it
year,
sorted.
right? See you next year.
Hopefully.
Paul, you related to any of the families out here?
Yes,
The farmers?
the farmers, yeah, Bridgehampton.
Bridgehampton?
And
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Good night, everybody. Thank you. Merry Christmas.
All right.
Have a good night, folks.
Do I hear a motion to accept the minutes of last meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Anything else we have to do? Pretty well.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to bring up, we had a case on Beach Road in Laurel,
Right.
which was, 18-54. I went and visited the site yesterday, and it turns out there is no kitchen
There's no
in this
apartment, right?
facility in the proposed pool house.
Okay.
So the architect who, gave testimony to that fact is incorrect. So I just wanted to make that clear on the record.
He was incorrect?
The architect's incorrect, the one that was telling us that there was an apartment.
Oh,
He
okay.
was an opposing
Yes,
neighbor.
sir.
Right.
Yes.
Close the hearing or is it closed? Hearing still
No,
open?
we
It's
just
adjourned.
adjourned it, we did not close it.
We're leaving it open.
Okay, so he was wrong. There was no apartment.
He was incorrect.
Okay. All right. Is that coming up next meeting?
Well, whenever they decide to move it off the agenda and vote on it,
They're hoping to, if he can get his papers into.
he has to reapply,
Okay.
because he's eliminated some of the variances in the rears. He made the pool smaller, so he doesn't need the 10-foot back rear yard, so he's gonna resubmit.
Okay. Well, thanks for going there, Leroy.
Okay, you're welcome.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you
All
very
right.
much.